What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Road to Infinity War here at The Real Talk, where we're counting down and reviewing all the MCU films that come before Avengers Infinity War, which is just under 20 days away, and that is insane. I cannot believe that. Earlier this week, we did review Guardians of the Galaxy with my good friend Jared Buckendahl, and today we're going to be talking all about Avengers Age of Ultron, which came out in 2015 and directed once again by Joss Whedon and starring everybody, and that's Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and James Spader as Ultron. And as always, we do have a special guest, and that is Fraser Jubb. So Fraser, take it away, man.
Hi everyone, Fraser here. First up, thank you John for having me on your channel. 'Tis an honor. Now let's give the people what they want, a review for Avengers Age of Ultron. This film does a really good job at humanizing the Avengers and really exploring what it means to be human. At the barn, all the characters, they have a moment to rest and do some real soul searching. At this point in the film, they're no longer superheroes, they're just people, and we find out more about their own personal problems that we relate to, and we really get a sense of how they're just reluctant heroes. I never read the Ultron comics, so I can't compare that Ultron to this Ultron, but I will say that I liked his character in this. Was he as menacing as we were expecting from the trailers? No. He had all these quips and one-liners, but I liked that. It worked for the tone of the MCU. And not just Ultron, but all the characters, they had this constant back and forth with one another, which is what you come to expect when you watch a Joss Whedon project. The hammer joke at the party, it's funny. It's one of the most hilarious scenes in the entire film. And later in the film, Vision casually picks up the hammer. And at that point, it's really well done. It's no longer a throwaway joke, it's a plot device. It removes all shreds of doubt to not just the characters, but the viewers as well. We no longer suspect Vision, we trust him, without question. He picked up the hammer, he was worthy to pick up the hammer. His heart is pure, essentially. This film does a really good job in expanding the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Vision is introduced, Hawkeye is explored in more depth. We learn about how he has a wife and kids, and how he's essentially the glue that keeps the Avengers together. And we're also introduced to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Side note, they're played by Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen. I find it hilarious that they play brother and sister in this, and less than a year before they played husband and wife in Godzilla. Come on, I can't be the only one that finds that funny. I am? Okay. Age of Ultron does do a bit of foreshadowing, especially in the wood chopping scene between Tony Stark and Captain America. It sets up the rift between Tony Stark and Captain America in the Civil War. You really see their different points of view, and not just that, there's also that part where Tony says he doesn't trust someone without a dark side, and Captain America says, "You've just not seen it yet." That's essentially foreshadowing how Captain America knows about how Tony's parents really died, but he's just not saying it yet. He knows about the cover-up. I find that pretty neat. And ever since watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I've always found there's this very big similarity between that and Age of Ultron, in that the villain just wants to cleanse the world of everyone and start anew. I preferred how it was done in Guardians, but I've always noticed that. I'm not sure, did anyone else ever notice that? Or feel the same way about that? Like, I liked having Guardians that had a more personal aspect to it. I did have a couple of small issues with the film. The first one is I found that Ultron was defeated way too easily. I am perfectly happy with how they finally ended it with him and Vision in the woods. That's actually my favorite scene in the whole film. But the final showdown with him actually fighting, not his minions, him, it ended really fast and was just rather lackluster. Second, Quicksilver sacrifices himself at the end, and while it's well done, I think it could have been so much better had it been with a character that we had known for much longer, definitely longer than just the one movie for only 2 hours. Like if it had been War Machine, that would have been more impactful, because we've known him for years. We've known that character for years. And finally, the post-credit scene with Thanos where he picks up the Infinity Gauntlet and says, "Fine, I'll do this myself." Really well done, but way too early. I think it would have worked better in a later MCU film, because we've not seen him for 3 years, and at that moment you're kind of thinking he's going to be in the next film, but he's not. So overall, I really enjoyed Avengers Age of Ultron. It gets a lot of hate, which I don't think it deserves. Maybe I'm a little biased, as Joss Whedon is one of my favorite filmmakers, and his work is one of the main reasons I wanted to be a filmmaker myself. But that aside, Age of Ultron delivers a number of memorable moments such as Hulk versus Hulkbuster. It adds depth to a number of characters such as Hawkeye and introduces us to Vision and Scarlet Witch. It may not have been as dark as many were expecting from the trailers, but it was still a good fun time, a solid superhero film, and a worthy follow-up to the first Avengers. If I were to give this a score, I would give it 8.1 out of 10. John also asked if I could share my thoughts on the upcoming Avengers Infinity War. I've actually managed to avoid the main trailer. All I've seen so far is just the original teaser trailer once or twice. That's it, so I'm hoping to go in knowing next to nothing. What I will say though is that I think if this Avengers film or the next one, if either of them do not beat Avatar at the box office for biggest box office of all time, I don't think any film is going to ever manage that, because this has been a story that's been 10 years in the making, and you have such a large and loyal fan base. I honestly don't see another thing coming up. I mean, Star Wars Force Awakens didn't do it. If this doesn't do it, I honestly just don't see any other franchise managing that ever. Story-wise, I think we're going to learn more about what Thor learned in his dream sequence in Age of Ultron about the Infinity Stones and the Infinity Gauntlet. And I also think that Captain America and Tony Stark are going to kick the bucket. They're going to croak. They're going to hit the old dusty trail. They're going to die is what I'm trying to say. Together. That's what I'm putting my money on anyway, and as far as Thanos is concerned, I'm cautious yet optimistic at the same time. I think if he's the big bad that we're all expecting, that's great, but I'm concerned that if he's not, it'll take away from any of the previous films whenever he's mentioned or talked about. It's just not going to work. But I do have high hopes for this film. It's probably my most anticipated film of 2018, so fingers crossed it's good. Right, so that does it for me in this video. Thanks again, John, for having me on your channel and being part of your Road to Infinity War series. We'll definitely need to have you on my channel to do something sometime. Later, everybody.
Alright, Fraser, thank you so much for that awesome review of Avengers Age of Ultron, and thank you so much for joining me on this Road to Infinity War. It really means a lot. And guys, if you guys have not checked out Fraser's channel, please do yourself a huge favor. All his links are going to be in the description down below. Check out his channel. He has some great content, some awesome reviews, and tell him John from The Real Talk sent you. Alright guys, so with all that being said, let's get to my thoughts and review of Avengers Age of Ultron. Alright, so Avengers Age of Ultron, to be honest, I was really excited for this film. I mean, it was following my favorite MCU film at the time, which was The Avengers. That movie for me just changed superhero movies, you know, forever, and kind of changed Hollywood as well, because everybody wants to have a cinematic universe now. But, you know, following that, and also including Ultron, which is one of the Avengers, you know, arch nemesis and favorite and most, you know, unique villain, it was going to be a really tough task. And plus, adding all these characters too. But, you know, like I said, I was excited. I mean, at the theater, I bought this shirt, you know, and I also got a poster because I saw it on IMAX, so it was really cool. So yeah, I was really hyped for it. And to be honest, at the first viewing, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was better than the original Avengers. But, you know, kind of going back with it, with all my hypeness gone down, stuff like that, I kind of seen the little negatives. And even this time around, looking at the film with reviewer eyes, if you want to call it that, I kind of found a little bit more negatives. But overall, I still enjoyed the film and I really liked it. So let's get to my positives and negatives. Alright, so starting off with my negatives is, to be honest, this time around, maybe it's because I've heard the jokes time after time after time already, after reviewing this movie so many times. Maybe they didn't land with me this time, or just I saw that the jokes weren't really necessary. In the beginning, especially with Strucker, like, there's just a lot of amount of jokes that weren't natural, that just seemed like they just put it in there, and kind of repetitive as well. Like that one little grunt, you know, talking to Strucker, he's like, yeah, but they're the Avengers. Like, he said like 3 times, you know, yeah, it's funny, like, oh crap, like, they're the Avengers, like, we're no match for them. And it's just, I don't know, just a lot of, especially in that opening scene, it's like, come on, you know, like, it's just too many jokes. But after that, I mean, it calms down a little bit, but still, I kind of found, you know, the film, like, I don't know, I'm a big fan of comedy, and I'm not saying these superhero films should be like no jokes. I just would like them to come naturally and stuff like that, not forced. And I feel like especially in the beginning, there were a lot of forced jokes. And my second negative is that there's too much convenience in this movie to kind of move the movie forward. Like, a lot of things don't really make sense. Like, one instance, when Ultron already escapes from Tony Stark's lab or Avengers Tower, he meets up with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and it's like, okay, well, how did they know he was there? You know, maybe he sent them a text or email or whatever, say, hey, you know, this and this, but I don't know. I feel like that was too convenient, and just a lot of things throughout the movie too. And obviously that whole Thor thing, everybody says it, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not that bad this time around. But I saw it, and I was like, yeah, that kind of went nowhere, you know. And I was like, okay, maybe it's gonna be explained in Thor Ragnarok, and it wasn't really, you know. So I don't know what that was all about, and I think that's another downfall, another negative, that this movie does a little bit too much setting up like the Infinity Stones and stuff like that, and kind of when Thor comes back to, you know, wake Vision or whatever, or complete him, he's, oh yeah, he has a Mind Stone. It's one of the 6 Infinity Stones, and it's like, okay, like I don't know, it was just kind of too much and out of place. Alright, so now we're going to get to some of my last negatives, and that is obviously Ultron. I really liked Ultron. I really liked that he was kind of sarcastic and kind of, you know, playing off like Tony Stark, you know what I'm saying? Like, he had a lot of, like, a weird way to look at the world, and obviously that's why he wanted to do the things he wanted to do, but, which kind of, I like that, kind of his character. Like, they did give him a character and kind of some, you know, personality to him, and that's what was missing in a lot of villains, but I feel like he wasn't really feared. Like, I feel like he should have been there and maybe just gotten away or like something. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure he didn't die, to be honest, because in the comics and even the shows, they get rid of him and he keeps coming back because he's kind of like infinite, you know. But with that being said, I don't know. I feel like they could have done a little bit more with Ultron. Like, a little, use them, like maybe kill one of the Avengers in that. You know, when he first comes out, yeah, he's a little bit weak and stuff like that. But, and his arc, like his creation is changed because obviously Hank Pym had a hand in creating him and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I'm not really complaining about that, but I don't know. I feel like Ultron just could have been used a bit more. And real quickly, just the accents with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, not a big fan. Alright, so now let's get to my positives. To be honest, the action scenes in this film, like, I know I was talking about the jokes in the beginning, but that first beginning, especially that team shot, that scene was amazing. Just everybody just fighting these Hydra agents and stuff like that. Even towards the middle, that chase scene when they're chasing Ultron, and even the ending battle in Sokovia when everybody's just fighting and just the thing is going up, that city's going up and stuff like that. Just, it was awesome, and especially obviously that shot where they're all around, all the Ultron bots are attacking. That was spectacular. I really loved it. And also, now talking about that, I want to talk about the team dynamics that Joss Whedon did so fantastic in the first one. I feel like in this one he does it again, especially after having, you know, some solo films. I feel like he was able to expand on some characters in this film, like that scene with Tony and Steve Rogers when they're cutting logs and stuff like that. Kind of getting to some, it is like a setup for Civil War and stuff like that, but it's just kind of showing you the differences between these characters and how they have to work together to go something, to accomplish a goal, but they still have differences deep down inside, you know. So I really like that they explore the characters a little bit more. And to be honest, I'm a big fan of all the Hawkeye stuff. Like I said in my Stardust review, I don't know, I really just like that this time around. Like, you know, when Scarlet Witch was gonna, you know, trick him and stuff, like, he's like, no, I did that before, I'm not a big fan, kind of alluding to like how he was used in Avengers. So I'm really happy that they give him some, they really made you care about him. So, you know, obviously I thought he was gonna die, but then to be honest, the first time viewing it, I did not see Quicksilver dying. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. But, you know, it kind of made sense to use Scarlet Witch and then kind of kill off Quicksilver, you know, to kind of say, okay, you know what, this did have some impact, like somebody did die, and he's probably like the only character to stay dead so far. But yeah, that's just a few things and a few positives that I like about the movie. And also, this movie looks and sounds great. I watched it in my big screen with the surround sound and all that stuff, and just, it still holds up. The CGI looks really good still, and there's like one shot in the beginning with Thor that kind of felt like CGI-ish looked, but everything else just was amazing, especially that fight scene with the Hulkbuster and Hulk. That was just amazing, incredible to see, so I feel like that still holds up. So that's pretty much it, guys. The team dynamic, the action scenes, the character arcs, and how they stay true to some characters and they expand more on some other characters. And also Vision was pretty cool. Like, it was really, I thought it was kind of cheesy how he was just introduced, but I feel like they had that scene where everybody was trying to lift the hammer, and obviously letting the audience know that, hey, like, we can trust this guy because he's worthy to lift up the hammer. So I really liked Vision. So yeah, guys, with all that being said, I have to give Avengers Age of Ultron a 7 out of 10. I did have a lot of problems with it, but overall, at the end of the day, I still have a lot of fun with it. It's great to see the characters all together again, and like I said, some of the arcs expand and stuff like that, and the action was phenomenal. Alright guys, so there you have it. That was our review of Avengers Age of Ultron. Let me and Fraser know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And guys, stay tuned next week because the Road to Infinity War is continuing with Ant-Man with my good friend Cody Curtis, and also Civil War, Captain America Civil War with my good buddy Ryan O'Toole. So stay tuned next week with those reviews. And guys, if you guys haven't followed me outside of YouTube, you guys can at The Real Talk with 2 Ks on Twitter and Instagram. You guys can also find me on Stardust doing early reactions to not only movies but TV shows as well, just at The Real Talk. So until next time, I'll see you at the movies. Later, guys.